What's up, y'all? I'm out here on the range on a bright sunny fall day. I got a nice breeze blowing for me, or else it'd actually be pretty hot out here. It's supposed to hit about 80 degrees, and with that sun beaming down with all my shade leaves gone, it's a little bit warm. But that ain't gonna keep me from doing some good jelly testing out here today, and this one right here should be a very interesting 10 versus 40 Smith & Wesson. So we got the jelly contraption set up, ready to roll with the chronos and 2 blocks of gel. Now I've done one test so far in this. I'll leave a link up above if y'all hadn't seen that, but that's all contained to that back side. Other than obviously I flipped you over, we had one that sneaked into this block here, but it shouldn't be a big issue because this stuff right here, as y'all can already see, I'm sure usually does most of what it's going to do up in this first block. Obviously, as always, I got the heavy clothing barrier with the layer of denim, fleece, and 2 layers of cotton t-shirt. And what we're checking out for this one is the bulked up versions of some stuff I just tested not long ago. It's this Sinterfire special duty self-defense ammo. Now previously it was the 9mm and the 380 that I tested, and it performed a lot differently than I expected it to. This Sinterfire is basically compressed powdered metal. It's copper tin, just powdered metal, sintered, heated, pressed, just really compressed metal. So it's basically just a powdered projectile. I expected it to fragment all to pieces, and it did fragment, but it was a lot more controlled than I expected, and it retained a whole lot more mass in that center chunk that kept going than I expected. So for this one here, we're stepping it up to the 10mm and the 40 Smith & Wesson. Now both of these are the same exact weight as far as the projectile, 125 grains. So I suspect that these are exactly the same projectiles. The only difference should be the amount of powder, because obviously, as y'all know, a 10 and 40 are exactly the same other than the case length. So there you can see them both got that centered hollow point projectile on it. So I expect really good things from these. Mostly what I'm curious about here is what is going to be the velocity difference between their 40 and their 10mm load. And as far as what we're running them out of, we got a couple Glocks here. I've got the G20 with the roughly 4.5-inch barrel, and then your G22 for the 40 Smith & Wesson with, again, a roughly 4.5-inch barrel. So this should be another good one. Again, I'm expecting very similar performance in the gel. It's just going to be a matter of how much more velocity and energy you'll get from the 10mm. So let's get this stuff set up and let's find out. All right, let's see how fast this stuff's moving, y'all. 5-round average from each one of them. We'll start with the 40 Smith & Wesson first. Now, again, for everybody not familiar with my testing setup, this lab radar is going to give you multiple velocities. Your large number will be your muzzle, and then you'll have 5 additional ones across the bottom. One is set for 3 yards, which is roughly where this gel is sitting. Then you'll have 10, 15, 25, and 50. Now, y'all know, if you're familiar with 10, the 50-yard mark out there, the velocity out there with a 200-round projectile, or a 200-grain projectile, I should say, is one of the ways that's measured. I'm not even going to get into my big 10mm rant this time, because I'm just going to tell you right now, this stuff would not even be a consideration for me in 10mm especially. I don't really care for the action of this stuff. Number one, it's too light for me. Number two, for 10mm, and I just don't think it's going to see the velocity. This stuff would have to see 1500 plus, I mean close to 1600 at the muzzle for me to get to like the energy of it. But anyway, I ain't ranting about that. I almost got there, but let's try this 40 first. Let's see what it's moving. 5-round average. Shoot, that stuff is loud. 1173. I mean, that stuff is incredibly loud. I think I mentioned that last time doing that 380 and 9. This stuff is very loud for what it is. 1197, 1171, and 1168. So already based on that right there, I can tell you right now that 10mm ain't moving anywhere close to what I want to see. But let's check out the average on this and see what we got. All right, so for our 40 Smith & Wesson, we had a 5-round average of 1178 feet per second, an extreme spread of 30 with a standard deviation of 11.8. So 1178 feet per second just from a 125 grain projectile. I mean, already that's weak even for 40. Well, let's get it reset and let's see what the 10 does. All right, let's see how much faster this 10 mils moving. Same weight projectile, so the only difference is the amount of powder in this stuff. So that 40 was what, high 1100. So let's see if this stuff can pick up 300 and some feet per second and actually impress me. I know it ain't happening, but that's what it would take. Let's see what we get here. 1343, 1344, 1348, 1352. And 1346, so it sped it up, but not even close to what I would want out of a 10 mil. It looked pretty consistent right there though. Let's check the average on it. All right, so that time out of our 10 mil, we got 1,347 feet per second. We had an extreme spread of 9 with a standard deviation of 3.6. So very, very consistent, the 10 mil version. Now, whether that was due to the extra powder, whether it was just the difference between the tools, I don't know, but very, very consistent. So 1347 on this, and if you remember out that 40 Smith & Wesson, it was 1178, so that's what, 169 feet per second faster from the 10 mil. Same weight projectile, same barrel length, same make of tool and everything. I mean, it's whatever, it's faster than the 40, so I guess they can call it 10 mil. That being said, I think they're both going to do exactly what they're supposed to do in the gel. I think the 9 went a little bit into that second block. The 380 fell pretty short within the first block, so I expect both of these to do well and probably carry a little bit into that second block. But let's get this stuff reset, and y'all know what time it is. All right, y'all, it's heavy on the powder, jelly time. We'll put one of each into the gel, starting with this 40 Smith & Wesson first. Again, I expect to see the kind of performance we saw out of the 380 and the 9, just better. More speed, more energy. Really curious on the penetration, though. I think it probably won't go much further. We'll see. All right, that should have been a perfect one. Let me go see what we got. All right, y'all, no surprise from that one. It looks absolutely perfect down there for what it is. So let's try out this 10 mil now. The one problem testing this stuff is it takes pretty much the whole block. One of them takes the whole block. So I'm gonna keep this separated and I'll give you some overhead views, but it's gonna definitely transpose over each other as far as y'all's view. So it's just the way it is with this stuff. Let's see what I can get out of it here. I think I went way too close. Let me go see what I got. All right, y'all, let's check this stuff out down here. It did get a little closer than I wanted for sure, but it's separated. I mean, all this is run together, but that was gonna happen anyway. But the main track stayed separated. I hit it with that low left pull. That was totally my fault. That's about a half inch, 3/4 of an inch low and left from where I actually wanted it. But anyway, we get to picture what happened here. The one on the bottom, that was the 40. The one on the top was the 10 mil. So pretty much the same thing from both of these. They come in here just like the 380, just like the 9, immediate fragmentation, just massive energy dump right here. I mean, tons of energy, tons of fragmentation, but they are nice big fragments, which I like. Now, there are some real small ones too, but most of them are big fragments. The 40 on the bottom again keeps on trucking here. Looks like it's about maybe 2 inches from the end of this first block, and looks like it's still got pretty nice chunk of material left there. The 10 mil again, more of the same, massive energy dump, nice fragmentation, keeps on rolling through this first block. Really nice disruption all the way through the first block, and it looks like it's into this second block, maybe about an inch, and it looks like about the same amount of material remaining as the 40 Smith & Wesson. So as far as the penetration on it, the 40 Smith & Wesson is exactly 14.5 inches, so really nice penetration on that core there. And then the 10 mil is exactly 17.25, so again, very nice penetration on that one. Now, as far as your fragmentation field here, it starts again at about 2 inches, and this goes out to about 7.5 inches. So from 2 inches to 7.5 inches, just massive disruption. As far as the width across, you're looking at probably about 4 inches. So a huge area of disruption and energy dump, and still some really nice penetration from the core. Here's your closer look. You can't tell a whole lot more than what you could from where we were at, but as you can see, they went in totally separate positions, but pretty much the same effect. Nasty amounts of fragmentation. And then you see your main tracks, 40 on the bottom, it stops right there, 10 on the top, goes on into that second block just a little bit. All right, y'all, let's check out what's left of these projectiles. So 40 Smith & Wesson on this side, 10 mil on this side. They both look pretty much the same, as you can see, and they look pretty much like the 380 and the 9 mil did. You can tell when you get a close look at powdered sintered metal there. So it really is just a bunch of powdered metal. Both of them broke apart nice and evenly, it looks like. The 40, maybe a hair more material left. I guess that would make sense moving just a little bit slower, but both of them did what they're supposed to do. I just still don't know how I feel about these now. I will say this 40, depending on what these weights are, I'm not sure what the weight is. It looks pretty substantial. So as far as 40, you know, I guess this would be as good an option as any, just being that it got the penetration. It is still lighter than I would like to have. That's my biggest problem with all of this type of stuff, is just a real lightweight. The 10 mil on the other hand, I don't even care what's left or anything. I personally wouldn't buy this, period, just because to me it ain't even up to 10 mil speed and power or anything. So let's see what kind of material we got left and what we lost from these anyway. So the 40 Smith & Wesson here, obviously they both started at 125. That one is down, if the wind will cooperate, 55.4 grains, 55.4 grains on that one. And then the 10 mil here, it is a little bit less if the wind will stop. We got 53.2 grains on the 10 mil, so a little more loss on the 10 mil, and both of those things lost what? Close to 75 grains of material. I just really don't like that loss because I'm not convinced just how much effect this fragmentation and really soon quick energy dump is having. But let's get a couple measurements on them as far as the base on the 40 Smith & Wesson here. You got 393 and 401, and then your overall length on this is going to be 317. And then as far as the 10 mil here, you got 399, 394, and then a length on this one of 305. So obviously no kind of expansion, but that's the kind of size you got left with that main core that's getting most of your penetration. And there you have it, y'all, a couple more of these Sinterfire rounds just with the added powder and added powder. You got more powder in the case, more powder making up the projectile, and to me that just makes it even that much better. Now again, I'm not a huge fan of this stuff at all, just because of these lightweights. To me, 125, I mean, maybe not quite this heavy, but this should have been around the weight that the 9 was. I'm pretty sure the 9 and the 380 was a good bit less. If I'm wrong, I'll leave notes, but it just stands to reason. You know, that Syntec, it was nice and heavy for a 9, so I'm not sure why everybody else insists on this really lightweight stuff. Maybe it needs to be this light to get it moving fast enough to come apart like it's supposed to. But either way, both of these did exactly what they claimed to do in the gel once again. All right, y'all, another couple of Sinterfire rounds in the books and another instance where they did exactly what they claimed to do. Perfect performance out here in the gel, really nice penetration. They fragmented exactly like they're supposed to do, exactly like they do every time. However, me personally, I'm still just not sold on this type of round. I just don't like the lightweight mainly is what concerns me. And I haven't tested these through barriers. So with that lightweight and without me personally seeing it and doing it for myself, I'm just skeptical. I always will be, so I've got to get these things tested through some type of little barriers. Now, like I mentioned on the 380 and 9, one of the other claims to fame of these particular Sinterfire rounds is that they will pass through like 3/4 inch plywood is what they claim. So softer, harder barriers, I guess you could say, and stay together and still have the good performance where you need it to be. And it'll still, though, ricochet or fragment and keep from ricocheting on really, really, really hard surfaces. So that's something I'm gonna have to test for myself. That's one of the reasons I wanted to knock this basic 40 10 mil test. So maybe I'll just test all 4 of the calibers I have at the same time. Now, as far as the 10 mil, like I said, I'm not even gonna get into that rant on this video. Not even close to what I would want for 10 mil as far as the performance and energy. It did a fantastic job in the gel, and it is faster than their 40, but to me, it is not true 10 mil as far as my standards go. But let me know down in the comments what y'all's thoughts are. Any y'all out there actually run this Sinterfire? If you do, what caliber do you run it in? Have you done your own kind of testing with it? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you got those notifications turned on so hopefully you get notified when I upload new stuff. Like I always remind you, check out those affiliate links in the video description. If you're doing some shopping, hit up those links first, and anything you buy after that, I get a kickback from them towards the channel, so I really do appreciate that. As always, a big thanks to my Range Gang members and every single one of y'all for supporting the channel the way y'all do. I've got a couple more interesting tests planned for out here today. If I can work around this wind, this has got to be one of the most aggravating weather conditions to try to film in, is this wind. But I should be able to get through it. Y'all stay tuned for a whole lot more good stuff. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you soon.